Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. What's going on, beautiful people? It's January 29th, 2026. It's Thursday. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully, you are warm and toasty no matter the weather where you are, and safe and sound. All right, we're gonna jump right into it. As you can see, I'm back to my day ones. Not really the gold cards. I'm actually not even that. Even part of me farther back, but that's neither here nor there. I was about to say the gold cards are my day ones, but not really. I go actually, fun fact. But before, I was pretty much too afraid to buy actual tarot cards, of course, for religious purposes back then. I started kind of messing around with a deck of playing cards that my son had got as a prize from none other than Chuck E. Cheese. So if you can believe that. So one thing about it, if you're intuitive or just in touch with that energy through yourself or in yourself, you can pick up on energy through pretty much anything, which is why you see readers with all types of cards. And sometimes you be out and about and see something that's like, it ain't even supposed to be cards for this purpose, but you could get a vibe off of them, because you can get a vibe off of everything. Everything in your waking life speaks to you. So when you have the intention to channel a message, I feel like the spirit is like, all right, what's up? You want to talk? Let's talk. It don't matter how we talking, let's talk. So those are the day ones. Those are the day ones. I think I bought my first tarot deck for my 30, I want to say 36th birthday. Yep, 36th birthday. But I had been reading and watching. I've been reading energy all my life, even before I knew what I was doing, and intuitively speaking out, speaking things that I didn't know how I know or whatever, and sometimes not speaking things that I know. But see, but the first deck I bought was when I was 36 years old. It took me all that time to accept myself. No shade. It was probably good because I was hella mature at that point. But it took a long time to shake the judgments that I had made agreements with against myself, and the judgments that I had made against myself, which was more so what I was conditioned by and what was projected on me than anything. So I don't know why I'm saying that. It's kind of random, but nothing's ever really random. So maybe this is the season, especially as we're gearing up. Before you know it, the top of this year is moving, we'll be in Aries season before you know it. And if it's time for you to project a true identity, it'd be no better time than that season to initiate something or introduce an aspect of yourself or whatever. And I just pray that it be an easeful expression, whatever it is, because sometimes when we are sharing of ourselves intimately, vulnerably, I should say, more than anything, from spaces that we don't typically allow others to have access to, it can be anxiety and driven, and that's in any way, shape, or form. Certainly isn't exclusive to spiritual things. You may be about to release a project, a business, launch a business. You might be able to be ready to change your look, change your wardrobe, cut your hair. It doesn't even have to be that serious. Like, just do so and celebrate yourself proudly and boldly, regardless of what the response is or is not. Because I'll tell you, when I started, it I started reading cards privately, and then when I finally answered the nudge to share out loud, it was scary, especially on platforms where people weren't used to experiencing me a certain way. But I did it anyway because I felt like I had a higher authority to answer to myself more than anything else, than people that had their own opinions or, had their own boxes to keep me in. I didn't have time to explain. I didn't have time um, to prep anyone. It was just like, fine, if this is what we're doing it. And back then I was on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, in addition to YouTube on a whole nother page. So it was like ultra exposure. And a lot of times what you'll get met with is no comment whatsoever. There are very few people when you're doing something really bold and different, that will even have the courage to challenge you to your face, even ask a question, which would be welcomed by most of us. I can imagine if you're anything like me, if people would ask more questions instead of making more assumptions, it probably would have made for a better understanding. But a lot of times people don't do that. It's just a human thing. They just they observe, they make their assumptions, they talk about it amongst others who may be confused or questionable, and they come up with their story and they stick to it about who you are and why you do what you do and X, Y, and Z, and so on and so forth. And sometimes that silence even can be uncomfortable when nobody's saying anything. Nobody's saying, I saw your video, or I saw what you posted, or what do you mean by that, or da. So either way, that's why I said whether they have a response or whether they don't. There's a quote by Tina Fey. I think she says something in her book. She says something like, do what you like and don't care if do what you love, or do what you love and don't care if they like it, or something like that. It's at the beginning of her book, Bossy Pants, which I read some years ago. And those are like words to live by for me. They kind of were in many ways before, but after I read that book, and me being such a fan of her work, and how she's kind of made, broken down barriers as a woman, as a creator, and even being from this tri-state area, and has done so much in so many different ways, to immortalize her legacy, pretty much, of funny. you know so yeah, I live by that, and I hope that many more people come to do so in this particular year, where the climate hopefully will become more conducive to it. So anyway, let's get into it, shall we? Let's see, what's on the clock? 12:27. Hey, wish fulfillment, 9 of Cups. Yeah, it's like finding your happy place, or finding that place, that sweet spot for yourself where you're quite pleased with how you're carrying on, what you're doing, what you're experiencing, how life is reflecting your frequency back to you. Yeah, there's really not a lot of not much to be desired when you get to like the 9 of Cups. You only got one more left for blissfulness. So it's like you are coming to a point where you are either finding your contentment with your true identity and with your authentic self, and or you're completely immersed in it at this point where can't nobody tell you nothing. Like you can't be persuaded to do anything outside of the specs of who you have established yourself to be, like what you stand for and what makes you happy. Let's see. You feel complete because 9 is completion. So there's a completeness, a wholeness that you feel with being who you are, or in being who you are. Two of Pentacles. What's the balance about? What's the juggle about? Let's see. Maybe to live in a world that constantly refutes this position, this approach to life. There's always something or somebody that wants to challenge that when you sitting, chilling, minding your business, being unbothered, focusing on you. Here comes the past. Maybe there's some deliberation, internal deliberation about the past here. Let me see one more. It's getting less and less. Now we're going from the 2 to the Page of Pentacles after the 6 of Cups. So I don't know. I'm feeling guided to say just be thoughtful about entertaining past connections or commitments that could regress you back to some state of uncertainty, insecurity, to lose some of that fervor. Is that the word? You know, to lose that groundedness, or to, here it is, it's like an unsteadiness to a very grounded position, firm position of contentment. So what is the catalyst for that but some entertainment of either a past friendship, a family bond, or attachment? Could even just be an old idea about yourself, or about how, you know, like you could be so cool and contented in where you are. Here it is. This connects to what I was saying earlier. I said nothing's ever random, really. Where I was saying, like, it took me a long time to be okay with myself. And it doesn't mean that those considerations of objections aren't still there. Even, it's not like you're not aware of the objections to this position, whatever that is, and however it is you've gotten there. So which means that they still exist somewhere. And if they still exist somewhere in the ethers, then they could persist to have influence on your environment or on your state of being, but all on account of what you give allowance to, or you give leeway to. And sometimes we can be, the reason, back to me, I'll make it personal, the reason it took me so long to be okay with who I was to myself first, even before I was publicly expressing myself, is because of those family ties that I had and deep, uh, my deep desire to not disappoint or disrespect or embarrass, my family or my background, um my origins, with the things that I found uh had found a drawing to, or calling to, because there was a contrasting belief system, about what was appropriate and what was not, which is fine. That's okay. But how it affects you is the only thing that you can truly control. You can't control what anybody else feels or thinks. And back in the day, if I had completely allowed that to dictate my moves, I would have missed out on a lot. I don't even have time right now to speak on how much my shift in uh, spiritual direction has completely transformed my existence, and in some ways it's let's say it's had a very intense impact all around. But who it has established me to be internally, my own personal self-esteem, especially spiritually, which is the other aspect here with the Nine of Cups, is invaluable. It's not something that anyone that I would have been um, catering to the comfort of could have given me or could have substituted. So if I would have sacrificed or forfeited something for the sake of pleasing anyone else but myself, I ultimately would ended up being the only one out of luck, or it's at some depleted value of esteem and satisfaction on account of what I surrendered to someone else to decide, So anyway, just be mindful of those energies, and may even be coming back with the Page of Pentacles on a higher note, maybe even in a more agreeable spirit, not necessarily condemning or judging or anything like that, but it just depends for you whether or not that connection, or in some cases reconnection, is something that's going to continue to contribute to this position here. Because from the 9 to the 6, that's a regression. You go from having 9 cups to 3 less. That's a lack of joy. Think about the 3 of Cups: celebration, joy, all on account of reunion, or reconciliation. And I'm not saying that it's a no-go for anything in the past or anyone or any place in the past, but if there's any deliberation, it has to be very, it would need to be a very less of an emotional observance and consideration as it is a practical one, honestly. That sounds kind of callous, but at this point, that's what it would need to be for anything that would want to present itself to you from the past, to proposition you or offer anything, whether it be information, advice. This could even be an investment offering, like, oh, we see the vision now, we want to invest, we want to help you. That's the best case scenario, right? In some cases, that would be what some folks would have always wanted to hear. Like, how can we help? How can we support? How can we, advance your mission, or, help you secure, help more securely you pursue your own mission or whatever, regardless of the misunderstandings or even total disagreements, but many folks didn't, and many folks don't, and many folks will not get that type of response, except for maybe down the road, perhaps. But what I'm saying is, this Page of Pentacles, if this is the offer, my first response was that it's small and it's a regression from even where you start at the 2. It's like if you got to be questionable about whether or not this is going to be good for me, and not necessarily profitable but more prosperous than anything, especially energetically and spiritually, for it to only come down to a page, I don't know. That that value would need to be seriously determined, maybe even scrutinized. Yeah, look, 3 of Swords. It just might be more trouble than it's worth, or more challenge, I'll say, than it's worth. Because even, I don't really want to harp on that too much, because it is what it is, and sometimes folks don't mean you no harm, especially the ones that have known you for all of your existence, because 6 of Cups is a very familial card. Speaks about something, something very intimate, very close to you. Could even be a relationship or a past partnership or something, but definitely tough on the family side, for sure. Especially given we're talking about 9 of Cups with the respect to the 10, which is absolutely, well, it can be soul family too. So therefore, family or friend, close family or friend. But the 3 of Swords is like, you would want to invest after some time has passed, and especially after you found your, like, you cool with you. You know what I mean? Like I said, can't nobody tell you nothing really about who you are in this moment, in all the best ways, not in any, ultra arrogant or egotistical way, but like you're grounded on at least your presence at this time. And much of what has led up to that as well is what contributes to that groundedness. So when you consider revisiting the past, you ultimately are conducive to retriggering or traumatizing yourself, or opening a wound that may never ever really be healed, or it may still be tender. There's that too, but it may never be healed to the point of wholeness, because it may not be in divine will for whatever disagreement or misunderstanding to be settled, as far as you're concerned, well, as far as anyone else is concerned. And so therefore, sometimes you could open yourself up to very sensitive situations, even situationships, familial or otherwise, or intimate or platonic, that draw you back into yourself, and before you know it, you don't even realize it, but you're holding back, or you're not doing as much, or you're distracted, or you're afraid to say a certain thing, or you feel a discomfort in doing a certain thing or being a certain, so it's like you gotta be careful about what you about what you, and then some people just want to be nosy. They just want to get close to see what you're doing anyway. They may say, that's the dark side of it, like, because like I was saying, some people don't mean you any harm. They just want that old thing back, in no diabolical way per se, but they're used to having access to your energy, to see you, to talk to you, experience you in some way, shape, or form. And it may be good for them, may be a benefit to them for sure to have that access, but it might not necessarily be good for you. And it's no love lost to whomever, and it's no judgment against whomever that's just making their own choices and deciding life on their own terms, which everybody has the right to do so. But the only person that's going to be responsible for maintaining this frequency of supreme self-esteem is you. And sometimes you got to kind of go a little above and beyond the conventional measures of doing that, i.e. sometimes like what they call no contact, or I call spiritual solitude. And might not be forever, but at some moment, sometimes you have to disconnect, sometimes disassociate, sometimes just outright get by yourself to find this place of confidence so that you can truly be a vessel of creativity, in the way that you were designed to do so. Otherwise, you could keep trekking along, on a trajectory that's really not for you, but it pleases those around you or pacifies those around you as something a bit more palatable. Who does that really serve in the end? Definitely not you. Definitely not you. And if you are ordained to serve anyone else in the capacity in which you were actually authentically designed to do so, a whole lot of other people are missing out too, So, yeah. So Page of Swords is like, this could just, I don't know. It could be, I don't care for this very much. The Page of Pentacles, the Three of Swords to the Page, because this is like offering something that looks like one thing quite intriguing. Who wouldn't want another pentacle if there's no strings attached, but then immediate heartbreak, trauma, fear, to the Page of Swords is given that there's a watchfulness or maybe an ulterior motive behind this presentation or proposition, maybe even the message. That could be the other thing where folks just want to get, worst case scenario, folks just want to get in your energy to get in your ear again, to be able to hopefully like either persuade you or deter you to do something else against where you've already asserted yourself for whatever reason, but nothing here is major. It's all minor, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's nothing to me that speaks to anything that has to be done, like that is absolute or indefinite. It speaks to a great deal of choice, that gets to be made personally. That may not be an easy choice or a decision to come to, but starting with the Nine of Cups, it says that it's a pivotal one, whether it be in this season or maybe the season to come, where you have a lot on the line to protect internally, if nothing else. And there may be those that present themselves to want to offer something to that or offer something to you, that ultimately just want to weigh in, whether it be to watch or to have some type of insertion or, like interjection. Yeah, to interject themselves, especially if they see you in some successful state and they have ill will or, some type of ulterior motive against that state. It's like, oh, hell no, you ain't gonna be sitting over here living your best life. You was supposed to be down bad by now, like you wasn't supposed to make it doing the things that you're doing. You should be struck down by now, condemned, like cursed to the whatever. Ooh, that was kind of poppy. Yeah, Three of Cups. Yeah, and then you're not receiving that. You're not receiving that. Not from the wrong hands. That ain't the cups that you're in the market for. I get from that, like people almost disguising themselves to be coming from a good place, you know, like that Four of Cups hand is coming from the divine, like they're coming from a godly place, a holy place. They're just concerned about your well-being, concerned about your soul, you know what I mean? Like that type of energy. I'm saying that because of how I started. You know, there's a connection there. So I must be talking to some folks that can relate to that frequency of transformation under, you know, a judgmental watch, or transformation under a judgmental observation, whatever that is, where people are like, oh, what they doing now, or you hear what so and so doing, or why they doing that, or when they start doing that, or why they don't have a regular job, or why they don't. It could be anything. Oh, you heard they quit their job to start a new business, and like it don't have to be spiritual. Just people minding your business. Which reminds me of that meme. Well, it's a sound, I guess. Oh, there's the Three of Cups. Isn't that funny? The Three of Cups and the Ace of Wands. I'm gonna take it because I want to move kind of through this. But what's that sound of the lady when she said, when you're black, you're never really alone, because there will always be a white person all up in your business. I freaking love that video, because basically people took that sound, which was a sound bite from some other compilation. I saw that lady, but I forget what the compilation was. I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to find. But I want to say it was connected to when it was a big hype about the white folks that wanted to start their own town, and black people was like, we don't care, go ahead, do you, just let us start ours when we get good and ready. That type of vibe. It might have been that, but it might have been something else. But basically people use it when they're in those types of situations where it's just like black business being minded, and somewhere there's an interjection from somebody of another skin type, i.e. a white person, that needs to interject, interfere, insert, you know, object, whatever it is. Sometimes just how people be like recording themselves or something, and they'll catch a glimpse of the background of like at white people staring at them like, look. And it's like, once you don't you see that she's the phone will be point, like say somebody's taking a selfie and they point the phone, and can't you see yourself looking at yourself in the phone? Like that didn't tip you off to maybe look away, or, you know, act like you were looking so. No, they just be staring, and that happened a couple of times. So I mean, it is what it is. Like, and look, this is kind of like, it'd be like just people minding their business, and there's somebody in the background on the sidelines just peering in. Anyway, that was such a tangent, but I hope you go find those compilations, because they're pretty funny. If you're black, maybe you'll think it's funny if you're white too, because maybe you too have been you know, maybe you didn't realize that you were in the number of the white people that mind black business just casually, harmlessly. You ain't trying to hurt nobody, because hell, black people mind black business and other people's business too sometimes. But it's just funny because I am black and I've experienced that. We all have at some point in time. And when you see it lined up back to back to back, it's just with the same lady saying it over and over again. It's just funny. But anyway, so yeah. So there's some celebration here for, so maybe this is why I'm saying all this, because there's celebration already underway that is almost like a precursor for, well, no, I feel like it's celebratory for this state of mind or spirit that many have found themselves in, to have established a high self-esteem enough in a world such as this, or in circumstances such that could be conflicting, to put themselves at, you know, in a position to be productive or prosperous in the ways that they, you know, that they, the divine actually, with that Four of Cups, actually needs you to be so. So there's celebration because there's already that, and then there are more opportunities either to expand or to maybe just flex in that frequency. I like that even more, like to flex in that frequency of confidence that you may not be able to afford to allow to be disturbed um, like it's delicate enough that you would want to make sure that you are uh, proactively, almost poised for any disruptions or detours or, you know, intrusions that would not make you focus to fully receive and maybe even integrate with this opportunity. You know, it's a big one. It's something big. And maybe it's something that could trigger that cause of deliberation to that tracks back again, I would say, to these old notions of condemnation and judgment that that trigger us at many times to question ourselves. You know, practically speaking, you get an opportunity for a position or to create in some type of way, but you start to second guess, like, am I real? Like, it's a big one. So you like, wow, like, am I supposed to be doing this? And you start re-questioning all over again. You've been doing this for years, maybe for some almost a decade, you know. You've been doing it for years. And then suddenly when you get this big break or this big moment to be celebrated, to be acknowledged, you recoil into yourself to consider whether or not you're even worthy of all of this, whatever this is, because there's some seed, you know, in you, perhaps, or some trigger that has you thoughtful about those seeds that were ultimately planted in you to reconsider yourself, you know, when you may be the obvious choice for someone else or for something else. For you, it's like, do I have what it takes? Am I even supposed to be doing this? Is this my purpose, my path, my field? Is this right? Is this righteous? God, you know, seriously, you know, like, is this my calling? Is this the path that has been ordained for me? All of these things. And I feel like those are that's like the press that comes up when you're at a pivotal moment where everything that made you that brought you to this point, good, bad, and indifferent, will come up all at once to make you reconsider. You know, it could even, in worst case scenario, have you forfeit an amazing opportunity. This is divine. You know, this is not just a one-off. Somebody likes what they see. And I mean, it could come in that form physically or materially, but this is like heaven sent type of energy when we're talking about the aces. Something that is a divine gift or opportunity or provision or information. So when you start to compare that to carnal confinements, you know what I mean, it doesn't really compute, because what you're comparing it to based on your dated conditioning is not necessarily going to match up to something that's a bit more nuanced, dare I say even supernatural, because it's not the same stock, really. You know, it's just not from the same stock. So I really feel like this is definitely a word to the wise to stay on the lookout for powerful moments of advancement and maybe even promotion underway, and that you don't trick yourself out of receiving it for past regression. Certainly not on account of what anyone from the past or outside of yourself might have to say about it, how someone else might judge you or judge it. And this is why sometimes it becomes easier to be no contact or to be in solitude until you have things completely situated, because it's hard to control those emotional impulses, because we do love to be agreeable as humans. We like to be accepted. We like to be understood. So when you're faced with a decision that may put you completely on the outs of all those things, is not easy. Not for most people. Not for most people. But it's necessary. For the majority of those that encounter it, if not all, is necessary, especially to secure any level of advancement here with the Ace of Wands. Like, there are some things that some of us have boldly stepped into, regardless of the objections and rejections that we experienced, that have made all the difference in where we're headed. If you haven't had that encounter of a big breakthrough or an opportunity on account of your the major choice that you made, it's the thing that would have only set you up in that trajectory. There would have been no other way, no other portal, no other pathway to do so. So if you would have said no then, you may never even encounter this. And if you say no once you encounter this, if it's something upcoming again or upcoming soon, you may never have an opportunity, or it may be a long time before that opportunity comes back around. And it still you may not be the same as you were when it does, and it might not be the same, and then the circumstances, surely, as the world is like fast, rapidly evolving, may not be the same. Nine of Pentacles, bam. Yeah, but this is that single, independent, sovereign energy, title or no title. And not officially the counterpart to the Nine of Cups, but I always love when I see those two in the same space, you know what I mean, or even in the same reading, because it is very confirming that it's not, this is universal. Like anybody can get it, masculine or feminine. Is speaking to an energy about yourself that starts from the cups, the Nine of Cups, but it materializes to the Pentacles. And here it is, this breakthrough, this opportunity, this is the motion that leads to that. And here it is, because here we start with the Cups, which is not tangible really, but the Nine of Cups is solidified. The Nine of Pentacles is solidified. That's irrefutable. It's tangible. It's spendable. It's accounted for. It's measurable. All of those things. So it's like, this is the payoff. Imagine forfeiting this total spiritual, financial, maybe even physical, psychological security here on account of an opportunity of a lifetime that, again, if forfeited at the precursor, of the process, might not have shown up the way that it has, and now it's here right up under that Six of Cups. What are you going to, what of it will you tell yourself? How can I say this? Are you going to affirm your worthiness when it presents itself, or as it's presenting itself? Shoot, as you are presenting yourself. Because if no one else does in the physical form, back to that beginning, will you have the strength, the power, and the determination to reaffirm that for yourself? Or will you forfeit it? I don't think most people that have, I don't know. I feel like most people that have weathered the worst of that standalone moment that you may have had to make at some point in time, whether it was literally in isolation or detachment or physical detachment or not, you wouldn't get all the way to the moment of the payout, the breakthrough, the resort and reward of it all to say, nah, I'm good. Like, would you? You know what I mean? But I guess there's a reason we're talking about it, because maybe you might. Especially after some time has passed, maybe you might reconsider. Well, the world card is here, so that, and this is the, other than, wait, is Ace of Wands a major? I don't even think it is. 105 on the clock as the phone lights up. No, this is the only major here. Are the aces majors? I don't think so. No, because the court cards aren't. So no, this is just the only major in the midst of all of this. To me, that speaks to something that is absolute. Like, there's something that can't be missed here. You know, like, it, to me, is saying that even if you were to try to sabotage this experience one way or another, and say, like, backtrack or go back or reconnect in a way that is not ordained, or not organic and progressive, it either wouldn't be possible to do so because some type of circumstances have changed in one way or another, or I just feel like what I'm trying to say is that the world is an inevitable ending to something, a completion, a close. So what might even be a thought to return to or to reestablish, if it's not ordained to transfer into the new cycle that happens on the other side of this world card, it'll be virtually unreachable in some way, shape, or form, I would like to say. Like, there'll be some type of what was meant to be done and ended from the past season, era, lifetime, decade, whatever it is, like, everything that is in alignment to close, there's no opening that back up. And I think if you were if you were to even, like, try to force it, it would be destructive in some type of way. Probably more emotionally and psychologically than anything, which would ultimately trickle into the material. So let's just say all around. And I feel like the evidence of that, like the impact of that, would be fast and furious. It's like trying to go against time, it's trying to impose like your own timeline on something that's already been concluded, like wrapped up, sewn up, like you trying to run back, spin the block, run the clock back. Something unfavorable at least is bound to happen, I would say. And in some cases, worst case scenario, you might not even, to do that against the will of the divine, that is, you might not even see the effects of it until you're already in the midst of your new cycle, realizing that you have created an entrapment into something that now has to be, now you got to ride that out or find your way out of that for another 8, 9, 10 plus years. So it's like, that's why I'm saying, like, you really got to weigh the cost of your investment and your intentions and your decisions in this season, because it can either be an immediate what do you call it, like consequence or effect that will be extremely intense, or it'll be a long drawn out effect that will also be extreme and intense. Either way, it doesn't compare to what is currently on the table as we speak, for those that can relate to the comparison or the point of choice here. Hermit. It's the investigative energy, really scrutinizing every line, every whatever. But this is also like being, again, almost supernaturally ushered. It's like the universe is doing like, come on. Yep, keep going. Like, keep pushing you in the direction where we need you to go. Like, not aggressively per se, but intentionally, relentlessly. And as you're going with that flow, there's a level of discomfort at times in that transition, but when you're in the flow. And the discomfort is usually what? On account of what you're leaving behind, or what you're disconnecting from, or what you no longer have access to. People, places, or things, or where you no longer feel comfortable, But when you're going with that flow, again, when you're committed to that flow, you accept that discomfort for where it is you feel is the greater good, and this is the hermit energy here that usually ushers you into those spaces, especially those of solitude. So I don't know, this is after the world, so I don't know, like, again, it may be speaking to really finding yourself being in a state, even in maybe even in an even more enforced state of solitude or seclusion, in a way, as you settle with this transition, post breakthrough or post opportunity transition, whatever we're talking about here. This pivotal moment might be a catalyst for another bout of, I would say, like semi-hermit mode, where it's not like you're disconnected from the world, because he's actually facing the world, but you're intentional about creating certain boundaries with everything that poses a question, particularly of trauma or triggering. So like you're not even really trying to take the chance if you can help it. Like you prioritize that peace of mind and peace on your path, especially a new one, if that's what we're talking about, or some new leg of it, more than you do all those things that I've spoken about that makes the human experience more I guess like more palatable at times, more comforting. I was feeling like more complacent, but I feel like it can be kind of a negative connotation, but comforting, let's say, to some degree, because then in a lot of ways, like I said, how comfortable can you really be if you don't feel like you can fully be yourself? That's why complacency kind of is the word, because it's a lot of times people find more comfort being by themselves or with contained within their own space, but because of the conditioning to be with whomever, however, wherever, whenever, we submit to that because that makes more sense culturally and collectively. But a lot of times, hell, the peace is, especially if you're you're good with yourself, you're healed to some degree, the peace is on your own by yourself, where you ain't got to worry about pleasing nobody or pacifying nobody or answering to nobody. It's just you, yourself, and you figuring out what to do. And this is that like otherworldly energy that helps to guide you within to make those discoveries that a lot of times can't really be effective in that directive when you have a whole bunch of other shit going on outside of you, a whole lot of other people to answer to communicate with, that are again in your business, telling you what you should do, advising you on what you shouldn't, this and that. And I'm not saying that there's no value in that also to some degree, but I'm saying that the discernment rests on whomever resonates to make those, to sift out what that is and what it isn't, to make those strong choices. And I feel like this is almost like yeah, it's like a cosign on what I'm saying. Like, yeah, she's single. He's single. One solitary thing, wand here. Hell, the girl single. You know what I mean? It's like a lot. The only multiple energy is the Six of Cups here, which is questionable already, and the Three of Cups, which is the celebration. But I don't know. Let me see. And solitude doesn't always mean like, in this case, in the way that I'm speaking of, it does, like I said, it doesn't mean that no one you connect with no one, you speak to nobody, you stay in the dark house and never come out, and no human contact. It's not that. It's really about like the sovereignty that you're establishing in the earth as it's being conducted through you by the divine. It's like that becomes your source and your, like your source of stability and strength and assurance, like that frequency starts to conduct through you in a certain way, where it's like the more, good vibes are welcome for sure, and whatever is contributory to the experience that's already being cultivated here at the 9 and the 9 Cups and Pentacles. But anything else is a no thank you. Like, you're not even willing to entertain anything less than that, you know? And unfortunately, you can't control what other people want to bring to the table. And you shouldn't condemn them either. However, you can decide what you accept, you know, and the table being your auric field. So, I don't know. So it seems like, you know, really preparing to make some strong choices. Yeah, with the Hierophant here. The strong choices. And I don't even know how this goes really, because, and I feel like this Hermit is almost the protective energy from that Three of Swords. Like, keep going in, keep focusing on you, keep doing the internal work, keep calling in higher inspiration and intel, you know, deeper understanding. All those things that you were cultivating here at this state, it needs to, it needs to continue and maybe even become that much more of a practice, almost a religion. Yeah, like the religion of self-care is what I'm sensing here. It's not just a matter of self-preservation, but prosperity. Yeah, that with the Hierophant, that's what that is. Like, almost religiously maintaining this high sense of spirituality, where Christianity was my devout religion before. I say love is now, you know, faith, grace. These are the things that are my daily practice, that are my non-negotiables. These are the things that I operate from, like the things that have become my my relentless practice, you know, my principles, my moral and ethical code, you know, like my own personal establishment of faith, that, here it is, has been approved by the source that I submit to, not by man, you know, or not by anyone else that feels they have that particular authority to do so, but by the one that I have submitted to or created a bond, what do you call it, a covenant with myself interpersonally. And of course, that comes with its own whole other layer of scrutiny for sure, which is probably why I spoke about like regrounding yourself on your beginnings, you know, and even talking about my own, to where you have evolved to at this point. Because you're going to need to be reminded of that. You're going to need to remember that that is just as sacred of an establishment as any official order of practice outside of you could ever be, especially one that was projected onto you or spoon-fed to you, even, you know, in the best possible ways. Like, that's just what it is. It was before you even knew yourself. You were told how to think, how to be, how to behave, what to believe, what's right and wrong, what's righteous and sinful, you know, or depending on your upbringing. So it's like, now that you've come to that point of establishment for yourself, by yourself, for yourself, that's the foundation that you firmly build your prosperity upon. And if there is if there is a jeopardy of tarnishing that foundation, or fracturing that foundation. You have the divine right to create distance, whatever that means, however that means, between you and it, especially where it is, again, for the purposes of preservation and prosperity. Because you are answering to a higher calling, even within yourself. Your supreme self is calling you higher and higher every day. So you could never defer to anyone here in the physical to dictate what this gets to be. And then, on account of this establishment, this is the opportunity that is arising to them create and produce, again, from that frequency, of which, if it had never been established, there'd never be an outlet of creativity. All right, so, all right, I gotta go to the bathroom, so let me hurry up. Judgment, oh my gosh. Sorry, and hey, I mean, do I need to say more? Do I need to even say much more? Sorry for the TMI, but I want you to know why I'm kind of rushing off, because all of a sudden I just gotta go. All right, so Judgment, the Ace of Pentacles, like that's what it is. Like that's the finality of it. As I said, it's like this is where the bag is, and not just the money, but this is where the prosperity is, where you feel great about yourself, you feel like you're contributing to creation, you're adding value, you're doing what you're called to do, you're taking care of yourself, secure, established, especially in the material sense, which means that everything else would have needed to come first. So this is, again, like, Judgment to me is, once again, the most affirming card that we could have to end this, with the the Queen of Pentacles. Didn't say that for no reason though, the Ace of Pentacles. To affirm that nothing has been in vain. That's what it comes down to. And so therefore, nothing should be in shame. You've been guided the way that you have for a purpose, and soon, if not already, what materializes on account of that initial intention and that initial choice. What was I going to say? What materializes from it, will be affirming. It'll be affirming. Double tens here with the Judgment. That not only is that past cycle complete, just as it needed to be closed, or it is being closed just as it needed to be, you're in a perfect position to now begin the new cycle in an even more prosperous way than before. So again, if you hadn't done all this, you wouldn't get this opportunity. So when this opportunity presents itself, I hope that anyone that connects to what I'm saying will feel affirmed through their own discernment, of course, but not through past reflection or comparison, in the most present state of mind, considering where you are right now, what you truly desire, that you'll be receptive of this amazing breakthrough that happens, and you will allow it to be fully integrated with your reality so easily, because you don't have to second guess whether or not it's true indeed. It is. The Judgment's here. The world is here. The Hierophant's here. The Hermit. Like, these are some big major figures here. With the Judgment in the world, that means that something is absolutely over, and something new is absolutely underway. No way around it. All right, so anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with